Good morning, everybody. Hope you all are having a great day already. And I'm going to be singing for you guys 2 worship songs. One of them is new, so let's go ahead and praise the Lord today. Signs and wonders from above, when you poured out your Spirit on the old and the young, with the power of your presence, Holy Spirit reign, falling like a flood, break upon my praise as I sing of your love. Holy Spirit fire within my soul, so I call on your name, Jesus. Dreams and visions from the sun, as I stand in your presence, revelations of your love. To the heaven, Holy Spirit reign, falling like a flood, break upon my praise as I sing of your love. Holy Spirit fire within my soul, as I call on your name, Jesus, as I call on your name. Break upon my praise as I sing of your love. Holy Spirit fire burn within my soul as I call on your name. As I call on your name, Jesus. As I call on your name, Jesus. Standing up in crags and clay, the peaks of earth in full display, they break the lines that break the sky. It's full of life, it's full of life, chaos of creation stands a tapestry, a symphony of life himself, of love herself, in
Hey guys, welcome back to our series. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. I cannot wait to share with you today's crazy story. But first, I have a question for you. Have you guys ever had a bad day? Yeah, I have too. We all have them. They happen. Well, there was this one day I was leaving for a trip. I was so excited. I packed my car the night before. It was all loaded. The next morning, I got up really early. I walked out to my car, and guess what? My tire was flat, and my trunk was so full, I couldn't just get the spare out of the back. And it was too early for any of the service stations to be open. So I ended up driving my car very carefully around the corner to the gas station, put some air in it, and waited for the place to open to fix my tires. Well, the service guys at the shop were able to fix my tire, and it was free. My day was redeemed, and my trip could begin. Well, in our Bible story today, we are learning about a girl who wasn't just having one bad day. She was having a bad life. Everything was going wrong, but God helped her to change her bad situation to a crazy good one. We're going to find out more about that in a bit, but first, I want you to check out this video to help us understand what our lesson is all about.
Welcome back, everyone, as we continue our series. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. Consider this week to be Ruth and Naomi, Part 2.
Who are Ruth and Naomi?
The two women we talked about last week.
Was I even here for that?
You got turned into a cheeseburger.
Oh yeah.
It was hilarious.
Quiet you.
He's got beef with the professor. That is funny.
Guys, enough.
They started it.
Now, like I was saying, we're talking about Ruth and Naomi. Now, last week, Ruth and Naomi were left with nothing. No food, no money, no house, nothing except each other. They were in a really rough situation. Back then, if you were a woman their age and you weren't married, society thought you were basically worthless.
Like a bologna-flavored lollipop.
Sure, whatever that means.
Ooh, that sounds tasty!
Ruth and Naomi were in a terrible situation, but one of God's favorite things to do is to take something bad and turn it into good. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. If you're going through a terrible time, God can use it and turn it around into something amazing. In today's lesson, Ruth and Naomi are going to meet a man named Boaz.
Oh, come on.
What?
That is not his real name.
Yeah, it is.
We've had Ehud,
Gideon,
Nebuchadnezzar, and now Boaz.
Yes, that was his name, and he plays an incredibly important part in Bible history. Through him, God takes a terrible situation and turns it into something amazing. So what do you think happens next? Are the hard times for Ruth and Naomi really over? How's God gonna fix this? Find out in today's lesson.
And is Boaz really his name?
For the last time, yes. Oh, Professor, it's the best part of my day. Hit the...
No!
What?
Don't touch that button.
Oh, all right.
Thank you.
I've got another one.
Wait, no!
Ha ha!
Why me?
Last week, we talked to you about Ruth. You remember, she shared some crazy love with her mother-in-law, Naomi. Do you remember by remaining faithful to her when things got really tough and coming back to her homeland with her? That's right. I don't want to spoil the story today for you, so be sure to pay close attention. You're going to learn more about Ruth and a man named Boaz in today's Bible story. But right now, we're going to check in with our friend Disco Dave and see what he's going to teach us in What You Gotta Know.
Ha, 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 what you gotta know, what you gotta know. Ha, 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 what you gotta know.
Yo, what's happening, you crazy cats? It's me, Disco Dave, and I'm here to tell you what you gotta know. Today, we're talking about how sometimes bad things happen to good people. So today, every time you hear somebody ask you what you gotta know, you tell them God can take what's bad and make it good. Bad stuff happens. It's part of life. Sometimes you can just be minding your own business, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, something bad comes around and knocks you down. But God, He can take all the worst stuff that could ever happen to you and use it for good. He did it for Ruth. He can do it for you. So today, every time you hear somebody ask you what you gotta know, you tell them God can take what's bad and make it good. And that right there is what you gotta know. I'm Disco Dave saying, Dynamite!
Let's say that what you gotta know one more time. God can take what's bad and make it good. Well, we're gonna learn about that in our Bible story today. It's found in the book of Ruth. And last time we talked about the fact that there was a huge famine in the land of Israel. So Naomi and her husband Elimelech, they went to a foreign country in search for food with their 2 sons. When they arrived in that foreign country, their 2 sons got married to women from that country. What were those women's names? Yes, very good. It was Orpah and Ruth. Sadly, while in the new country, Elimelech and his 2 sons, they died. Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah, they buried their husbands and they cried many tears. However, the famine was soon to be over in the land of Israel. So Naomi, she encouraged Orpah and Ruth to stay behind while she returned home. Well, what did Orpah decide? Yes, Orpah decided to stay in her land. And what about Ruth? Ruth went with Naomi, and she said, wherever you go, I'll go. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Ruth was faithful to Naomi, and that is where our Bible story picks up for today. When Naomi and Ruth arrived in Bethlehem, it was the beginning of harvest season. Naomi had a distant relative on her husband's side whose name was, what do you think his name was? Yes, that's right. It was Boaz. Boaz owned a farm in Israel. Well, one day Ruth said she was going to go to the field and pick up the leftover grain that anyone would leave behind for her. It just so happened that while Ruth was in the field picking up grain that people were leaving behind, she ended up in Boaz's field. You would think with a huge famine that Boaz, when he saw Ruth taking the leftovers from his fields, he would have said, "Get out of here." But instead, he said to her, "I heard how faithful and loving you were to your mother-in-law, Naomi. Don't worry, I'll protect you." When Ruth told Naomi what happened, Naomi was relieved. See, she knew that in those days, a woman whose husband died, that woman was not able to own land or get a job. It was crazy. But the way for them to survive was to have a close relative to take care of them, someone they called a kinsman redeemer. Naomi told Ruth to stay close to Boaz so he could be that redeemer and take care of them. But when Ruth told Boaz the plan, Boaz said, "I may be able to take care of you, but there is a closer relative, and a closer relative that is in relation to you is better according to the law." So the next day, Boaz went out to this closer relative and he let him know the situation, that this guy was next in line to take care of Naomi and Ruth. So what do you think happened? He was happy or he said no? You're right. He told Boaz no. He said, "I can't afford it. You redeem the land for them." So when Boaz heard that when he heard that news, he knew it would be okay for him to step in and take care of Naomi and Ruth. The proper way to do so was to marry Ruth. And so that's exactly what they did. Ruth and Boaz ended up getting married. They had a son, and their son's name was Obed. Obed grew up and he had a son, And Obed's son's name was Jesse. Jesse became the father of King David. Wow, that took a crazy bad situation and turned it into crazy good. In our lesson today, you are going to learn how God can do the same thing for you and turn your bad situation into something good. But before we go further into this lesson, let's take a look at our power verse.
Cause I like to cook tacos like soup. Oh, hey boys and girls, it's me, Teriyaki, and I was just getting ready to cook up something tasty for my restaurant, Nice Rice. As you know, I'm kind of famous for getting things scrambled. Well, today's power verse is extra scrambled, and I need your help. Let's take a look at it. And we know that 8:28 causes everything to work together for the good of those who love Romans and are called according to his purpose for them. God. Wrong. This is very, very mixed up. Kinda like that time a lady asked me to make her a cup of hot cocoa and I made a cup of hot dogs. She wasn't very happy. Anyway, boys and girls, I need your help getting this power verse unscrambled. Let's look at it together. And we know that 8:28. Nope, that's not right. Those numbers mean something else. What do you think they're for? Yes, let's move them to the end. Causes everything to work together for the good of those who love Romans. Oh, that doesn't sound right either. Where does Romans go? That's right, the scripture reference. It goes right before 8:28. And are called according to his purpose for them. God, Romans 8:28. I think God and God don't go with the scripture references. Maybe they go in those two blanks. Yes, that's it. I think we have it. Let's try saying it all together on the count of 3. So stand up and say it with me. 1, 2, 3. And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. Romans 8:28. That's a great power verse. Let's make sure we can remember it so next time we don't get it mixed up in our brains. Stand up again and let's say it on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. Romans 8:28. Great job, boys and girls. Now, I've got to get back to making this Jell-O. Or is it peanut butter? Either way, until next time, this is Teriyaki saying, Jell-O, can I get some peanut butter?
Let's say that power verse one more time. And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purposes for them. Romans 8:28. Have you guys ever been in a situation that was super scary? Maybe in a situation that seemed completely hopeless. Maybe you felt like there was no way that any good could ever come out of it. Well, I have no doubt that Ruth and Naomi felt the exact same way. Ruth was in a horrible predicament. She had just lost her husband, she had just lost her father-in-law and her brother-in-law, and when she decided to take care of her mother-in-law and left her homeland, she left her family and her sister-in-law behind. And when she got to Israel, the only person that she knew was Naomi. The land she was in had just came out of a horrible famine, so finding food was next to impossible. Ruth had it rough, but there's good news for Ruth, and there was good news for you, and there's good news for me when we find ourselves in a rough situation. That good news is that God knows where you are and what you need. Do you remember where Ruth ended up searching for food? That's right. She ended up in Boaz's field. She ended up in her relative's field. She thought because of how rough her situation was that she was going to have to sneak food away after everything else was almost picked through. But it turns out that the man who owned the field was family, and he would take care of her. She didn't know where she was and what she needed, but God did. She thought she was in a strange field and that her biggest need was food. God knew what she really needed, though. She needed someone to take care of her and someone to take care of Naomi. And God put her in the right place at the exact right time. And that's great news for you and me too. When we don't know where we are or what we need, God knows. He will take care of us. He can see what we can't, and God knows exactly what we need, and we just have to trust Him. Now, remember why Boaz said he would take care of Ruth? A stranger, a foreigner who was taking food from his land? It was because he had heard of Ruth's faithfulness. The way that she chose to stick close to Naomi no matter what and love her and take care of her. Boaz rewarded Ruth's faithfulness. And guess what? God rewards our faithfulness. It's true. God sees when you're being faithful to Him, and He chooses to reward you and bless you. A lot of people, they only stay faithful to God or to others when things are going really good. But as Christians, we need to stay faithful to God no matter what. When times are really great, we need to stay faithful to God. When times are really tough, we need to stay faithful to God. No matter what's going in our lives, we need to be sure to stay close to God. We can read our Bible to stay close to Him, pray, worship, going to church, or watching church online, and sharing Jesus with others. We must stay faithful. God rewards faithfulness. God saw Ruth being faithful, and He rewarded her by putting her in the right spot at the right time to meet her kinsman redeemer. Now, speaking of redeemer, God wants to be our redeemer too. He wants to redeem our situations. Now you say, what really does redeemer mean? Well, it's like this. God can take what's bad and make it good. It's kind of like one of these little coupon discount cards. Have you guys ever purchased one of these? I know you've sold them because this is from one of your schools. Well, if this coupon card or this discount card sits in my billfold or it sits on my counter at home, it's pretty worthless. It's just a little piece of plastic. But it goes from being worthless to worth a lot when I take it to the store and redeem it. You see, when I take this worthless piece of plastic to the right place at the right time, it becomes worth something. I can trade it in for food or for discounts on things. That's called redeeming a coupon. If I am hungry and all I have is this piece of plastic, that is not good. But if I take this to the right store at the right time, I can get food for it. And that is taking a bad situation and making it good. When I redeem this coupon, it takes that bad thing of hunger and it makes it a good thing of being full. The same goes when you guys go to an arcade. Have you guys ever played a ton of games and do really well? Like skee ball. I love skee ball. I think that's how you say it. And it spits out all of these little tickets. You might think, what in the world? Such a ripoff. All I got were these tiny pieces of paper for the good job I did. But is it really worthless? No, that's right. It's not, because you can take these tiny pieces of paper and you can redeem them at the prize counter, and you can get a prize for them. They are no longer worthless. They have value. You might look at your situation and say, there is no way that anything good can come out of this. But you know what? God can and wants to redeem any situation. If you take your problems to God, He can redeem them. God can take what seems to be a bad situation and He can make it good. All we have to do is trust Him and stay faithful to Him. God can redeem your situation and He can take care of you. All right, guys, I want to hear you say that what you got to know one more time. God can take what's bad and make it good. Very good. All right, what about your power verse? Do you guys think you can say that again? And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purposes for them. Romans 8:28. Guys, in your packets this week, or available to download online, is Think About It page. It's a time for you to stop and reflect on today's Bible story and how it applies to your life. The first thing on the page says draw it. Draw a time in your life when things didn't go exactly the way you planned, but then they turned out okay. Journal it. Take a moment to write about how it felt when a situation was bad. And then you can take a moment to write about how it felt when that situation either turned around or when you had a really good situation that God provided for. On the flip side, read it. Read the story of Ruth. It's 4 chapters, that's it. And then draw a picture of the story or write to God about your favorite part of the story and tell Him why it's your favorite. And last but definitely not least, down here, we have pray it. Write a prayer to God and ask Him to help you through the tough situation that you're going through right now, if you're going through one, or you can thank Him for the ways that He's already brought you through the situations and other tough times. You guys, Ruth and Naomi, they were in a very bad place. They could not provide for themselves, and they found that the only way to get food was to take the discarded crops that the workers had left behind. It wasn't fair. Their situation was bad, and it seemed hopeless. But then Boaz came along. It is no coincidence that Ruth was gathering food in the field that Boaz owned. And it is no coincidence that Boaz spotted Ruth and he knew her story. God honored Ruth's faithfulness by working on her behalf to make a very bad situation a good one. He had a plan all along. You might face situations that feel bad or hopeless or even unfair. And you might wonder if God is noticing what you're facing and why He's not fixing it in your life right away. In those moments, remember the story of Ruth and Naomi. Remember that you can trust God. Trust God that He is never blind to what you were going through and that He is working on your behalf to use those bad times to make them good. And they're going to be good for His glory. You can always trust God no matter what. Guys, let's have a prayer time. Let's go ahead and bow your heads. God, I thank You today for our friends that even though we can't connect in person, that we're not here together in person, that we can connect digitally. I thank You for Your word. This is true, Your word that is true and that brings comfort and encouragement when times are tough. God, You know every situation that we are facing today, whether it's sickness or if we're worried or we're scared, if we're sad, those situations that are rough. We have experienced a lot of rough and bad, sad situations these last few months. God, I pray that You help us to stay faithful to You and to trust in You. I pray that You will redeem these situations and take what is bad, what has been bad, and that You will make it good. Your word reminds us and that you cause everything to work together for good for those that love you and are called according to your purposes. God, I pray that you would help us to remember this truth today. God, I pray for each one this week that you would help them to have a great week and that you would keep them safe. In Jesus' name, amen. Guys, it's been great connecting with you today. Stay connected with us on Facebook, Instagram, through our Remind app, which your parents are getting text messages from, and our Zoom calls during the week. We love you, we miss you, and we can't wait to see you again in this room. And it'll happen before we know it. Love you all. Bye.